This is the richest black family in Paris. They don't chase attention, yet they control some of the most valuable real estate in the city. From luxury buildings to hidden investments, their influence runs deeper than most people realize. They've built a quiet empire worth millions, maybe billions, right under everyone's nose. But here's the twist. What if everything you think you know is only part of the story? Because this isn't just about one family. In this video, we're counting down 10 of the richest black families dominating Paris real estate. Number 10. The Conté family. When people think of extreme wealth, they usually picture flashy lifestyles, private jets, designer overload, and constant displays of luxury. But the story of the Conté family moves in the exact opposite direction. Led by N'Golo Kanté, this is a family that has built serious wealth while staying almost completely invisible to the spotlight that usually comes with it. N'Golo Kanté's journey is already legendary. From humble beginnings in France, raised in a modest household after his family migrated from Mali, he rose through the ranks of football with relentless discipline and humility. But what makes the Conté family different isn't just the millions he earned from top clubs and international success. It's how that money has been handled. While many athletes rush into extravagant spending, the Conté family has taken a far more calculated path. Instead of loud luxury, their wealth flows quietly into stability. Carefully managed finances, smart lifestyle choices, and long-term security. There have been consistent reports and strong indications that a portion of this wealth has gone into property and asset-backed investments, particularly within France. While the Conté family doesn't publicly showcase a portfolio of mansions or commercial buildings, that's exactly what makes them intriguing. In cities like Paris, some of the most valuable real estate is owned by people you never hear about. And that's where the real story begins. The Conté family represents a different kind of power, one that doesn't rely on visibility. No headlines about luxury estates, no viral tours of multi-million-euro homes. Just quiet ownership, strategic positioning, and a lifestyle that prioritizes longevity over attention. Even today, Conté is widely known for driving modest cars and maintaining a simple public image, a sharp contrast to his financial reality. That contrast has become part of the family's identity. Wealth without noise, success without spectacle. In a city like Paris, where property is one of the most valuable assets you can own, families like this often hold more influence than people realize. They may not look like real estate kings on the surface, but beneath that simplicity lies a level of financial discipline that quietly builds power over time. And as you're about to see, the Conté family is just the beginning. Number 9. The Nakamura family. If the Conté family represents quiet discipline, the Nakamura family represents something very different. Modern fame turned into global influence. At the center of it all is Aya Nakamura, one of the most streamed French-speaking artists in the world, and a name that has pushed Afro-pop culture deep into the global mainstream. Aya Nakamura's rise didn't happen overnight. She built her career from viral moments, streaming dominance, and a sound that refused to fit traditional expectations of French music. As her popularity exploded, so did the economic impact around her entire family circle. In the modern entertainment industry, success like this doesn't stay isolated. It expands into management teams, family support systems, investments, and long-term financial planning that often stays behind the scenes. The Nakamura family's wealth story is not just about music revenue. It's about how modern fame creates multiple income streams that extend far beyond the stage. Touring, brand collaborations, publishing rights, streaming royalties, and international licensing deals all contribute to a financial ecosystem that can quietly rival traditional business empires over time. And in a city like Paris, where luxury real estate is both status and strategy, families connected to global entertainers often find themselves in a position to invest in high-value property. While Aya Nakamura doesn't publicly display a real estate empire, her level of success places her family in a financial bracket where access to elite housing, luxury apartments, and long-term property investments becomes part of the natural trajectory of wealth preservation. What makes the Nakamura family interesting in this countdown is not visible ownership of buildings, it's potential. The kind of financial strength that grows quietly behind streaming numbers, sold-out arenas, and international recognition. In today's economy, influence can be just as powerful as physical assets, especially when managed correctly over time. Unlike traditional old money families in Paris, the Nakamura family represents new age wealth, fast, global, digital, and constantly expanding. It's not built on inherited estates or decades of property accumulation, but on cultural impact that translates into serious financial power. And as we move deeper into this countdown, the definition of richest starts to shift from visible assets to hidden influence, and from traditional wealth to modern empires that operate far away from public attention. Number 8. The Thuram family. Long before modern football became a global money machine, the Thuram family was already building a legacy that would stretch far beyond the pitch. At the center of it is Lilian Thuram, a World Cup winner, national icon, and one of France's most respected sporting figures. But what makes this family stand out isn't just success in football. It's what that success quietly evolved into over time. Lilian Thuram's career brought in significant wealth during his playing years across Europe's top clubs. But unlike many stories of sudden fame, the Thuram family's approach has always been grounded in structure and long-term thinking. Instead of chasing constant visibility, they built stability, education, influence, and carefully managed financial decisions that extend beyond sport. Over the years, that foundation has translated into a lifestyle that reflects quiet affluence. The Thuram name is not associated with flashy displays of luxury or excessive public spending. Instead, it carries a sense of discipline, cultural awareness, and generational positioning. In a city like Paris, where wealth often shows itself through property and prestige, that kind of restraint often signals something deeper: assets that are managed privately rather than publicly displayed. While the family does not publicly advertise real estate portfolios, their financial standing places them in a category where access to high-value Paris housing is not just possible, but expected. Elite districts in and around the city are often home to individuals whose wealth comes from sports, media, or long-standing professional success, and the Thuram family fits firmly within that world. What also strengthens their position is influence. The Thuram name carries weight in France, not just because of football, but because of cultural and social impact. That kind of influence often opens doors that go beyond traditional wealth, investments, partnerships, and opportunities that are not always visible on the surface. So while they may not look like a stereotypical real estate dynasty, the Thuram family represents something equally powerful: stable, generational wealth built from sport, reputation, and long-term financial discipline. In a city like Paris, that combination often becomes the foundation for quiet but significant property ownership over time. And as this countdown continues, the definition of power begins to shift again from fame and income to influence, strategy, and hidden assets shaping life behind the scenes. Number 7. The Tsai family. At first glance, the Tsai family doesn't fit the stereotype of old money or traditional wealth. There are no inherited estates, no centuries-old fortune, no long public history tied to Parisian high society. Instead, their story begins with talent, timing, and one breakthrough that changed everything. At the center is Omar Sy, a name that carries serious weight in French cinema and far beyond it. From early comedic roles in France to international success in Hollywood productions, Omar Sy's career has transformed him into one of the most recognizable black actors in Europe. But what often gets overlooked is how that level of success quietly expands into an entire family economy. When someone reaches global acting status, the income structure changes completely. It's no longer just film roles. It becomes production deals, streaming contracts, endorsements, and long-term royalties. That kind of financial ecosystem doesn't just support one person. It elevates everyone around them. The Tsai family sits directly within that ripple effect. In Paris, where wealth is often measured through property and location, success like this naturally opens doors to high-value real estate opportunities. While the Tsai family doesn't publicly display a portfolio of luxury mansions or commercial buildings, their financial position places them firmly within the circle of individuals who can access premium Paris housing, long-term investments, and elite lifestyle assets. But what makes the Tsai family interesting isn't just money, it's mobility. Their wealth is not tied to one industry or one moment in time. It's flexible, global, and scalable. With international film projects and cross-border opportunities, their financial presence extends beyond France, giving them exposure to markets and investments that many traditional families never reach. There's also a cultural dimension to their influence. Omar Sy represents more than success. He represents visibility, representation, and global recognition for Black French talent. That cultural weight often translates into opportunities that are not always visible in financial statements, but still contribute to long-term wealth building. So while the Sy family may not be a real estate dynasty in the traditional sense, they represent a modern version of wealth in Paris, earned, expanded through global entertainment, and quietly positioned within the upper tiers of lifestyle and property access. Number 6. The Paul Pogba family. At number 6, the story shifts into pure global football wealth. At the center is Paul Pogba, a World Cup winner and one of the most recognizable midfielders of his generation. His rise from youth football in France to Manchester United, Juventus, and back to top European football created a career built on massive contracts and global endorsements. But what makes Pogba's position in this countdown interesting is not just his salary history, it's the ecosystem around him. Like many elite footballers, his career has been closely managed through a strong family and advisory structure, especially in his early years, helping him navigate transfers, branding, and financial decisions at the highest level. Over time, that level of success translates into a lifestyle that naturally connects to luxury living, high-end assets, and international financial exposure. In cities like Paris, where elite athletes often base part of their lives, that means access to premium real estate districts and long-term investment opportunities. Pogba's wealth story is also defined by volatility and visibility. Unlike quieter fortunes, his career has been constantly in the spotlight. Every transfer, injury, and comeback followed globally. That level of attention turns personal success into a brand, and a brand into a financial structure that extends beyond football. In this countdown, the Pogba family represents peak athletic wealth from a generation that changed the economics of modern football, where a player is no longer just an athlete, but a global commercial entity. And as we move closer to the top of the list, the scale of influence only increases, leading into the most dominant modern Black French sports figure in the world today. Number 5. The Sassou-Nguesso family. Now the tone of this countdown shifts completely, because this is no longer just about fame, contracts, or entertainment money. This is about long-standing political power, generational influence, and wealth that has had decades to spread across borders, including into Paris. At the center of it is the Sassou-Nguesso family, one of Central Africa's most powerful political dynasties. With Denis Sassou Nguesso as its most recognized figure, this family has remained deeply tied to both national leadership and international financial networks for decades. But what makes them especially relevant to this countdown is not just politics, it's assets. Over the years, multiple investigations, reports, and international discussions have linked high-profile political families like this one to luxury property holdings abroad, particularly in cities like Paris, where elite real estate often serves as a safe store of value for global wealth. In Paris, prime properties are not just homes, they are financial instruments. Apartments in exclusive districts, luxury residences near diplomatic zones, and high-value estates are often owned through layered structures that keep ownership discreet. Families with long-standing political and economic influence are frequently part of this ecosystem, where wealth moves quietly between continents. The Sassou-Nguesso family represents this kind of global positioning. Their financial footprint is not limited to one country or one industry. It stretches across governance, oil-linked economies, international partnerships, and asset diversification that often includes real estate in Europe. What makes them different from the previous entries is scale and longevity. While sports and entertainment fortunes rise quickly, political dynasties accumulate influence over decades. That time factor changes everything. It allows wealth to stabilize, expand, and embed itself into major financial hubs like Paris. But unlike visible luxury lifestyles, much of this wealth is not displayed openly. It exists in layers, business structures, investment vehicles, and property arrangements that are not always visible to the public eye. And that is exactly what makes it powerful. In the context of this countdown, the Sassou-Nguesso family represents a turning point. We move away from celebrity-driven wealth and into the world of institutional power, where influence is not measured by popularity, but by control, reach, and long-term financial positioning. And as we move closer to the top of this list, the connections to Paris real estate, elite ownership, and hidden wealth structures only become stronger and more complex. Number 4. The Bongo family. At this point in the countdown, the story stops feeling like entertainment wealth or modern fame. It starts to feel like legacy power, wealth that has been accumulating, structuring, and spreading across borders for decades. The Bongo family is one of the most influential political dynasties in Africa, with its most prominent figure being Omar Bongo. For more than 4 decades, he shaped Gabon's political and economic landscape, and during that time, the family's influence extended far beyond Central Africa. What makes the Bongo family especially relevant in a Paris-focused wealth narrative is their long-documented connection to France. Paris has historically been a key destination for many elite African political and business families, not just for lifestyle, but for financial security, education, diplomacy, and real estate investment. Over time, this has created a network where luxury property in Paris becomes part of a broader global wealth structure. Reports and investigations over the years have repeatedly pointed to luxury assets linked to the Bongo family in France, including high-end residences and valuable property holdings in prestigious areas of Paris. While the details of private ownership structures are often complex and layered, what stands out is the consistency of their presence in discussions around elite real estate tied to African political dynasties. But the real story here isn't just about property, it's about permanence. Political families like the Bongos operate on a timeline that spans generations. Wealth in this context is not just earned, it is preserved, transferred, and strategically positioned across multiple jurisdictions. That often includes real estate markets like Paris, where assets are stable, high value, and globally recognized. Unlike celebrity wealth that rises and falls with popularity, this kind of fortune is deeply embedded in systems. Government, international relations, oil economies, and long-standing diplomatic ties. That structure allows families like the Bongos to maintain influence even as political landscapes change. And in the context of Paris, that influence often translates into access to property, elite neighborhoods, investment opportunities, and financial structures that are not available to the public at large. So while the Bongo family may not appear in traditional real estate rankings, their role in this countdown is clear. They represent the intersection of politics, legacy wealth, and international property power, where Paris is not just a city, but a long-term asset hub. Number 3. The Houphouët-Boigny family. At this stage of the countdown, wealth is no longer just about money, it's about legacy written into history itself. The Houphouët-Boigny family traces its influence back to Félix Houphouët-Boigny, a figure widely regarded as one of the most influential leaders in West African history. His leadership didn't just shape a nation, it established a political and economic legacy that continues to echo across generations. But what makes this family relevant in a Paris wealth narrative is how post-colonial elite families often built long-term financial and diplomatic ties with France. Paris became more than a capital city. It became a center for education, diplomacy, healthcare, lifestyle, and most importantly, asset preservation. Over time, families connected to this level of historical power often diversified their wealth internationally. And in that structure, real estate in Paris plays a major role. The city represents stability, prestige, and long-term value, qualities that align perfectly with generational wealth strategies. While the Houphouët-Boigny family is not publicly known for operating a real estate empire in the commercial sense, their name is frequently associated with elite access, high-value property networks, and long-standing ties to French high society. In cities like Paris, influence is often as important as ownership, and that influence can open doors to some of the most exclusive real estate circles in Europe. What makes this family stand out is time. Unlike modern wealth built through sports or entertainment, This is legacy wealth, slow, structured, and deeply embedded in political history. It moves quietly, often through estates, trusts, and international arrangements that are not always visible in public records. And in Paris, that kind of wealth tends to blend into the city itself. Luxury apartments in historic districts, properties passed through generations, and discrete holdings tied to elite networks all become part of a broader financial ecosystem that rarely draws attention but holds significant value. The Houphouët-Boigny family represents that exact layer of this countdown, the intersection of history, politics, and long-term international positioning. Their influence is not loud, but it is enduring. And as we move closer to the top two, the narrative shifts again from legacy political power into even more concentrated forms of wealth, control, and elite access within Paris itself. Number 2. The Ouattara family. At number 2, the scale of influence becomes harder to ignore. The Ouattara family is centered around Alassane Ouattara, a major political and economic figure in West Africa whose career has spanned international finance, government leadership, and global economic engagement. But beyond politics, what places this family in a Paris-focused wealth narrative is their long-standing connection to international networks where elite property and financial assets often overlap. Paris has historically served as a second hub for many high-level African political and business families. It's a city where diplomacy meets lifestyle, where international education, healthcare, and elite real estate intersect. For families operating at this level, Paris is not just a destination, but a strategic base for wealth preservation and global positioning. Over time, reports and public discussions have often linked the Ouattara family to luxury assets and high-value property interests in France. While the exact structure of private ownership is rarely transparent and often managed through complex legal and financial frameworks, the pattern is consistent with how global elite families diversify wealth across stable markets like Paris. What makes this family especially significant is scale. Unlike entertainment or sports wealth, political and economic leadership at this level operates within global systems. Banking, international trade, investment policy, and state-level economic partnerships. That kind of positioning naturally creates access to high-value real estate markets and long-term asset structures. In Paris, luxury property is not just about living standards, it is about security, legacy, and financial insulation. Apartments in central districts, diplomatic neighborhoods, and historically prestigious areas often function as long-term stores of value for global elites. Families connected to international governance and finance frequently operate within this space, whether publicly visible or privately structured. The Ouattara family represents that bridge between governance and global wealth systems. Their influence is not limited to one country, and their financial footprint reflects a broader international presence that extends into Europe's most elite property markets. And now, as we move to the final entry in this countdown, the focus shifts to the most recognizable modern symbol of wealth, influence, and global visibility in this entire list, where fame, fortune, and future potential all converge at the very top. Number 1. The Mbappé family. At number 1, this is no longer just a story about football. It's a story about how modern fame can evolve into global financial power in real time. At the center is Kylian Mbappé, one of the most valuable athletes on the planet and the defining face of a new generation of Black French success. From the moment he broke into professional football as a teenager, it was clear he wasn't just talented, he was market-defining. But what separates the Mbappé family from everyone else in this countdown is structure. His rise was not accidental or unorganized. It was carefully guided from the beginning by a tight family system that handled key decisions around development, contracts, and long-term career positioning. That level of control turned early potential into one of the most strategically managed careers in modern sport. As his career accelerated, so did the scale of his influence. Club contracts placed him among the highest earners in world football, while endorsement deals connected him to some of the biggest global brands on the planet. At this level, an athlete is no longer just a player. They become a global business entity. And in a city like Paris, where visibility and status intersect with lifestyle, That kind of wealth naturally translates into elite access. Luxury living, premium districts, and high-value environments become part of the world surrounding that level of success. But what's important is that much of it remains structured, controlled, and intentionally private. Unlike older forms of wealth that build slowly over generations, the Mbappé family represents something different: acceleration of wealth. In less than a decade, they moved from modest beginnings in France to the center of global sports economics, where every season adds new layers of value, influence, and opportunity. But perhaps the most defining element of their position is global reach. Mbappé is not just a French football star. He is a worldwide commercial figure whose influence extends across Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. That level of visibility transforms personal success into a long-term financial ecosystem that continues to expand far beyond the pitch. And that is why they sit at number one. Not because they are the oldest, not because they are the quietest, but because they represent the fastest rise to global dominance in modern Black French history, where talent, structure, and timing converged to create a new kind of power. And in this countdown, no one else comes close to that level of scale, speed, and global influence. And that's the reality behind the names shaping modern wealth in France. Some are loud, some stay quiet, but all of them are powerful in their own way. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe to Black Status, and turn on notifications. And comment who you think should be in the next countdown, because the next list might surprise you even more.